Welcome to the series of lecture on finite element analysis. In this part, we are going to see the applications of one-dimensional line element. We are going to consider a stepped bar problem. In the previous parts, we have derived the basic characteristics of one-dimensional finite element. Basic characteristics in the sense, what is the shape and how many number of nodes are there in the element. At each node, how many degrees of freedom we are assuming. And depends upon the total degrees of freedom, we will derive the number of shape function. So these are all already discussed in the previous parts. So for the one-dimensional line element, we are having two end node. At each node we have only 1 degree of freedom, that is pi 1 and pi 2, that is general notation. To interpolate this pi of x, we are using the linear polynomial, that is why this is called linear element, one-dimensional linear element. Since there are 2 degrees of freedom, for this line element we have two shape functions n1 and n2, where n1 is 1 minus x by L, n2 is x by L. In the previous parts, by using this one-dimensional line element, we derived the element characteristic equation for a bar problem. When we choose the element, we are assuming that this finite element is having uniform cross section throughout its length. So that is why in case of a bar of uniform cross section, we can easily use this one-dimensional line element. When we use this line element with 1 degree of freedom at each node, then when we derive the element characteristic equation, the general form of the equation will be like this: stiffness matrix multiplied by displacement matrix, which is equal to the force matrix. So for this particular bar problem, what is the stiffness matrix? It is AE by L, 1 minus 1 minus 1 1, and nodal parameter or displacement matrix is U1 U2. Coming to the force matrix, in the force matrix we have two parts. One is self weight gamma AL by 2 1 comma 1, and the external load part are boundary terms P of 0 and P of L. Here, what is the size of the stiffness matrix? The stiffness matrix is 2 by 2 matrix. It is a square symmetrical and singular matrix that we already discussed. Then the size of the matrix is also depends upon the total degree of freedom of this element. So in this line element, we have only 2 degree of freedom, total degree of freedom. That is why we are getting the stiffness matrix size is 2 by 2 matrix. When we use this line element for solving the bar problem, then when we discretize the given bar by using more than one element, depends upon the number of element, the number of degrees of freedom will vary. Based on that, the size of the stiffness matrix will also vary. That we will see through an example. Most of the engineering problem follows these 8 steps. First, we have to discretize the given domain or given structure. Then we have to derive the element characteristic equation. After deriving the element characteristic equation of all the elements, we have to assemble all those element characteristic equation to form a global characteristic equation. Then we have to apply the boundary conditions for that global characteristic equation. After that, we will solve the matrices. That is nothing but by solving the matrices, we are going to get the unknown displacement value. After getting this unknown displacement, we are able to derive the strain and the stresses of the structure. And then we have to interpret the results obtained through the finite element method. We are going to see all these steps through one simple example. Now we will consider a stepped bar problem. Through this problem, we are going to understand the steps followed in the finite element method. A stepped bar is subjected to an axial load of 200 kN at the place of change of cross section and material as shown in figure. That means if you see in this diagram, so it is a stepped bar, both ends are fixed, and the first section, you see the properties of first section. It is made of aluminum material and the area of cross section is 2400 mm square. Young's modulus is 70 into 10 power 3 Newton per mm square, and the length of this first section is L1 300 mm. So all are given in millimeter, so we can use as it is. And coming to the second section, it is made of steel and the area of cross section is 600 mm square, and Young's model is 200 into 10 power 3 Newton per mm square, and the length of this section 2 is 400 mm. So there are two material present in this stepped bar, and also there is a change in geometry, that is the cross section is also varying. This is a load acting point. The load acting point and boundaries, change of geometry and change of material property, everything should be considered when you make the finite element model, that we will see. When you see the direction of the external load, it is acting left to right. Normally when we solve the problem, the left to right direction is considered as positive. So this is a 200 kilonewton. Now we will go to the problem. First step, we have to make a finite element model for the given structure. Now, how many elements should be used for solving a particular problem? For that, we should use this thumb rule. So we have to introduce the node point wherever there is change in geometry takes place, or wherever there is change in material property occurs, wherever there is a boundary defined. Then also we have to introduce a node at the load application point. In the previous part, when we defined the engineering problem, we defined all these four parameters. I think you remember: the geometry, material property, boundary, and the load application point. Wherever we find the change in geometry, material property, boundary, and the load application point, then we have to introduce a node. Now we will apply this rule for this stepped bar problem. Here in the left end we have a boundary, right, fixed end. So we have to give one node at this point. Similarly, when you come to the right end, there is also a fixed boundary, so we have to give one node here. Coming to the inner part, the first section made of aluminium, second section is made of steel. So there is a change in material property. So we have to introduce a node here. That is the second node. At this point, there is change in geometry also. So we have to introduce a node. So both change in geometry and change in material property is taken care by this node 2. And also the load application point 200 kilonewton, that also acting in the same point. So this node 2 is introduced for change in cross section, change in material property, and also load application point. Say for example, if the load acting point is not at this change in cross section, suppose if it is acting in between this section 1, then wherever the load is acting here, then we have to introduce one node at this point. Then the model will become 3-element model, right? So I think now you will understand how to make the finite element model. Once again I will repeat: wherever there is a change in geometry, material property, and the boundary, we have to introduce a node. And also wherever there is a load acting on the structure, that also we have to introduce a node point. So now for this stepped bar problem, we are able to solve it by using two elements alone, right? So it is called a two-element model. After drawing this two element 1 with node 1 and 2, element 2 with node 2 and 3, and we have to show the degrees of freedom of each element. At node 1 we have u1, node 2 we have u2 degree of freedom, node 3 u3, that is the degrees of freedom. Displacement at node 1 u1, displacement at node 2 u2, displacement at node 3 u3. And in addition, we are marking the force component also in the finite element model. So here I am showing F1 is the force acting at node 1, F2 force acting at node 2, F3 for force for node 3. So we are defining the boundary conditions in this finite element model. After drawing this mesh, we have to show the boundary condition also. So at node 1, u1 is 0 because it is fixed end. And what is the force component? Since it is a fixed end, there will be a reaction force. So F1 is taken as R1. And here this R1 is considered as a positive value because it is unknown. So whatever the unknown force present in this structure, we have to consider in the positive direction. So this R1 is, for this problem, left to right is considered as the positive direction. So R1 is positive. At node 2, we have u2. The u2 displacement is unknown, right? We have to find out what is the force. F2 is equal to P. The P load, P is acting left to right, that is also considered as positive. So F2 is P. Node 3, u3 is 0 because it is fixed end. Then F3, because of fixed end, we will get reaction force R3. Now the next step, we are going to derive the finite element characteristic equation for element 1 and element 2. When we do the characteristic equation, the common node, which is a common node for these two elements, is a node 2. So whatever the property and the load acting on this common node should be equally divided when we write the finite element characteristic equation. So that we will see. So the second step, formulation of element characteristic equation. For element 1, this is the element 1, node 2, degrees of freedom u1 and u2, forces F1, F2. Now directly we can write the element characteristic equation which we derived earlier. For element 1, we are showing the suffix 1, A1 E1 by L1. 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. This is stiffness matrix. U1 U2 are the nodal parameter. For node 1 U1 U2. Right hand side we have F1 F2. So there is no self weight part in this right hand side because in the question the self weight is not given. So if any load density is given, then only we have to consider this self weight part. Here self weight is not specified, so we are considering only the F1 F2. Now substitute the values of element 1. A1 area of cross section 2400 mm square. E1 Young's modulus 70 into 10 power 3 Newton per mm square. L1 length of the element 300. 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. U1 U2. And right hand side F1 is R1 because it is a reaction force. This is what we have to remember. Why we are putting P by 2 here, F2 as P by 2, because the node 2 is common node for element 1 and element 2. So if there is any load acting at this point, then we have to equally divide this load. So 200 kilonewton is acting. So when we write the element characteristic equation for element 1, half of this load will be given to this element, then remaining half will be given to this element 2. So then only when we do assembly, this of P by 2 and P by 2 will become P. This point we have to remember. This is called connectivity. We have to ensure that connectivity for this common node. So here, that is why we are using P by 2 because node 2 is a common node. Now after substituting the value, we are reducing it. So we are getting 56 into 10 power 4, and the right hand side P by 2 is 100 into 10 power 3. We have to assemble the element equation. So that is why we are taking this 10 power 4 alone as a common term and multiply this 56 inside this stiffness matrix. So you will get 10 power 4, 56 minus 56 minus 56, 56 U1 U2 R1 100 into 10 power 3. So this is the element characteristic equation for the first element 1. Similarly, we have to derive the element characteristic equation for the second element. Let us see. So second element, what are the nodes? Node 2 and node 3. Degrees of freedom U2, U3. Forces F2, F3. Now write the equation A2, E2, L2, 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1, U2, U3. Here F2, F3. So no self weight term is coming. Substitute the values of A2 600 mm square, E2 200 into 10 power 3 Newton per mm square, L2 400, then U2 U3 degree of freedom. Here for node 2 we are marking P by 2 because this is a common node. We are taking the second half of the load here in the second element. Node 3 is fixed end, so we are getting reaction R3. Now simplifying this constant, we will get 30 into 10 power 4, and in the right hand side we will get 100 into 10 power 3 R3. Keep this 10 power 4 common term outside the matrix, then multiply the 30 inside the matrix. So you will get 10 power 4 30 minus 30 minus 30 30. u2 u3 100 into 10 power 3 r3. This is the second element characteristic equation. Now after deriving the element characteristic equation for both the element 1 and 2, we have to assemble it. So when you assemble these two element characteristic equation, we have to carefully see the properties of the common node. That common node property should be correctly added. That is called the connectivity. We have to establish the connectivity properly. Whatever the properties in the common node, that should be added correctly. That we'll see. The next step, formulation of global characteristic equation. Element 1 characteristic equation we derived, and element 2 the equation 2. So for easy understanding purpose, the numbering is given here. For the first equation, this 1 2 and 1 2 denotes the node number. Row wise and column wise we are giving the number 1 2 1 2, and here 2 3 2 3. So now when you assemble these two equations, right, so the common node should be properly added. Say for example, if you see the equation 1, the size of the stiffness matrix is 2 by 2, because for one element total degree of freedom is 2. So that is why we are getting the size of the matrix as 2 by 2. Similarly for this element also we are 2 by 2. But when you have an assembly of two elements, the total degree of freedom is 3. So you will get a 3 by 3 matrix as the global stiffness matrix. So now how to get this 3 by 3 matrix? For this numbering system will be useful. So when you write these elements of the 3 by 3 matrix, this is 1 1 element 1 1 matrix element. So that can be selected from this equation. This is 1 and 1 56. Here you can write. Similarly 2 1 2 1 element you can select from this equation. It is minus 56. That can also written. Then in this element 3 1, that means 3 row 1 third column, there is no combination of 3 1, so we are marking as 0. So physically also we can understand, because node 1 and 2 are there in the element, but there is no connection between 1 and 3. Okay, so there is a connection between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So that is why this 3 1 term will become 0. Similarly we come to the second row, 2, this is 2 and 1, so that we can check from this first equation. Second row first column minus 56 we are writing. Then coming to this one 2 2, which is a common node. 2 2 is there in the first equation 56, and also if you see the second equation, we have 2 2 element 30. So we have to add this 30 and 56 correctly. Then we will get 86 as the element in the global stiffness. So we have to add stiffness of the common node. So you will get 86. Now if you see this one, 3 second row third column. So we have to see the second equation is 2 2 3 minus 30. So we are writing minus 30. Similarly for third row, first 3 1, so there is no 3 1 element, so we have to put 0. Then third row second column we have minus 30, minus 30 we are writing. Then third row third column we have 30. So this numbering, initially when we practice the problem, this numbering will be helpful for assembling this stiffness matrix. And similarly we have to add these degrees of freedom also, u1 u2 u3, 3 degrees of freedom. And coming to the force right hand side, we have to add r1, and the common node force is 100 kilonewton and 100 kilonewton. These two should be added properly, and we will get 200 kilonewton, that is 10 power 3 newton, and r3. So this is the global characteristic equation for the given structure. So after getting this global characteristic equation, then we have to apply the boundary condition. Then only we can solve the problem. So now how to apply the boundary condition we will see. For this problem both n's are fixed. So at node 1 the u1 displacement is 0, node 3 u3 displacement is 0. So we can eliminate the row 1 column 1 for this u1, for the u, because u1 is 0, so we can eliminate the corresponding row 1 and column 1. Since u3 is also 0, we can eliminate row 3 and column 3. So mathematically this when you make u1 0, this row and this column will not have any effect, right, in the matrix multiplication. So that is why we are eliminating the row 1 column 1 for u1, and u3 we are eliminating row 3 and column 3. So after eliminating these 2 rows and 2 column, what is remaining? We have only one term, 86 into 10 power 4, which should be multiplied with u2, which will be equal to 200 into 10 power 3. So since both ends are fixed, we are getting a problem very simple. When you solve this one, 86 into 10 power 4 u2 equal to 200 into 10 power 3, we are getting this u2 as 0.233 mm. So the 0.233 mm is a positive value. So we can easily check what is the direction of the load. This is 200 kN acting left to right. The displacement also will be in this way, that is also positive direction. So we are getting the positive displacement. So u1 0, u3 0, u2 is positive 0.233 mm. So this is the direct solution obtained. Now after getting this displacement, we have to derive the stresses at each section 1 and 2. That is called post processing. Now evaluation of the element stresses. First we will consider element 1. So element 1, we have node 1 and node 2, displacement u1 and u2. For finding the element level stress, first we are going to find the strain acting on the element 1. u2 is the second node, u1 is the first node. So when you find the strain, what is the formula? Change in length by original length. So original length of the element is L1, that is known. What is change in length? We have to find u2 minus u1, because that degree of freedom we have already found out. u2, there is a displacement due to that external load. So that u2 minus u1, u1 is fixed end, so 0. u2 value already we calculated. This will be the change in length, u2 minus u1. So substitute the u2 value 0.233 minus 0, then divided by L1 is 300. Strain has no unit, so we will get the value like this, 0.233 divided by 300. Then to find the stress, we have to multiply the strain with the Young's modulus. Here the section 1 is made of aluminum, so the corresponding Young's modulus we have to multiply here. Then we will get the stress value, sigma 1 is equal to 54.4 Newton per millimeter square. 1 Newton per mm square is equal to 1 megapascal. You have to write that also, 54.4 megapascal, like that. And one more point we have to note down here, the sigma 1 is coming as positive. So positive stress in the sense it denotes the tensile nature. So you see the load acting at node 2. For section 1, it is like a tensile load. That is why we are getting positive stress, tensile stress. But when you take this section 2, say for section 2, this 200 kilonewton will be a compressive load. So section 2 will have a negative stress, that is compressive stress, that we will check. For element 2, let us see, for element 2 we have node 2 and node 3. Node 2 we have u2 displacement, u3 for node 3 displacement. So as per definition, strain epsilon 2 is u3 minus u2, that is a second node by minus first node displacement, u3 minus u2 divided by L2, length of the element. So u3 0 minus 0.233 divided by 400. So we are getting a negative strain here. For calculating the stress, we have to multiply with the Young's modulus. So here the section 2 is made of steel material. So corresponding Young's modulus is multiplied with the epsilon 2. So we will get 200 into 10 power 3 multiply with the strain. So finally we are getting sigma 2 is equal to minus 116.5 Newton per mm square. So minus sign indicates it is a compression nature. So by seeing this structure, we can also understand the section 2 is subjected to compressive load. So we are getting a compressive stress, right? So this is called interpretation of result, right? For simple problem, we can easily interpret the result. If you want to verify the magnitude, that also we can calculate, because that procedure we have studied in our strength of material, that magnitude also can be verified. After evaluating the element stresses, now we will evaluate the reaction forces of the stepped bar, which is fixed at both ends. So we will have two reaction forces at left end R1, right end R3. So to find the reaction forces, we are going to use the global characteristic equation, which we derived in the step 3. In this global characteristic equation, we have a stiffness matrix, global stiffness matrix, a 3 by 3 matrix multiplied by displacement vector u1, u2, u3. In the right hand side, we have force R1 200 kilonewton and R3. These are the three nodal forces. Now if you want to evaluate the reaction force R1, we have to take the first row of the stiffness matrix and multiply with the displacements. It will give you the R1. Similarly, to evaluate the reaction force R3, we have to consider the third row of the stiffness matrix, then multiply with the displacement vector. We will get this R3 value. Using this global characteristic equation, we are going to evaluate the reaction forces. First we will find the R1. We are taking the first row from the global characteristic equation and multiplying with the u1, u2, u3. So here u1, u3 are 0. So when we multiply this row matrix with the column matrix, we will get only minus 56. Minus 56 into 10 power 4 u2 is equal to R1. Substituting the u2 value we have calculated, then we are getting the value of R1 is equal to minus 130 kilonewton. So here the R1 is the reaction force in the left side support. So why we are getting the negative symbol? The negative symbol denotes the assumed direction is wrong. So that means the reaction force R1 is acting opposite to the assumed direction. So that means the assumed direction is left to right. So since it is negative, so we have to assume that the reaction forces is acting from right to left. Then we will calculate the reaction R3. For reaction R3, we have to consider the third row of global stiffness matrix. Then this is the third row, multiplying with the displacement, we will get the R3. So here minus 30 into 10 to the power 4 multiply with the u2 gives the R3 value. Substituting the u3 value, we are getting R3 is equal to minus 70 kilonewton. So here also we are getting the negative sign. That means from the right support, initially we assumed positive R3, that is left to right direction, but the negative sign indicates the reaction R3 is acting right to left, that is towards the structure. Now after finding this reaction forces, we can use these reaction forces for checking the solution obtained from finite element method. So we know that sum of the reaction forces will be equal and opposite to the total external forces acting on the body. R1 value is minus 130 kilonewton, R3 is minus 70. By adding these two, we are getting minus 200, which is equal and opposite to the total load acting on the structure, 200 kilonewton. So this is one way of checking the solution obtained by the finite element method. In this part, we have taken a stepped bar problem. We solved the stepped bar problem using the finite element method. In the next part, we will see the taper bar problem. How to solve the taper bar problem using the one-dimensional line element, which has a uniform cross section, but the taper rod will have variable cross section. So how to apply this uniform cross sectional finite element to solve a variable cross sectional taper bar, we will see in the next part. Thank you for your patient listening.